Is my grandpa secretly Commissioner Gordon? What burger of the day do I want to eat today? How does Ben Grimm have children? How is Hope gonna get herself out of this one? Let's have a conversation.
Hello, welcome to Conversations with the Goob. That's me. Let's have a conversation. So this week and next week I thought I'd talk about comic books, specifically comparing comic books to books themselves. So the first question would be, are comic books books? And the short answer is yes. Yes, they are. That's what it is. They definitely are. The long answer is it's complicated, and I'll get into that. So my reasoning for bringing this up is growing up, I love reading. Animal Farm, read that multiple times. To Kill a Mockingbird, as soon as I started reading it, I sped read through the whole thing. And it didn't even sound like a book that I would be interested in. I sped read that book. I mean, I liked it. But my issue is, chapter books give me vertigo. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like motion sickness. The world spins. I get nauseous, and I feel like I'm spinning even though I'm sitting still. Now, I do get motion sickness in cars if I just read like a few words, but this is if I just read a book. So my vision gets blurry while I'm trying to focus on the words, and it becomes difficult to read, and it makes it less enjoyable. So I went towards reading comic books mostly. But I always told myself, I can't read a comic book for a book report. And then this was even a lot of high school teachers like, comic books aren't books. You can't read that. That doesn't count as a book. And I never thought anything of it. That was normal. Come college, I'm in school to be a teacher, and one of my classes was ED 200, Education 200. So they're teaching you how to teach, and part of that was these weekly journals. They would give us topics and have us write about it. Usually there was something I'll do with teaching, and I don't remember what the topic was that week, but I decided to write on how I love comics, but they don't count as books. And so I did. Well, my education professor, she writes a big paragraph on the side and said, I understand why you think that, but you're completely wrong, and I'm really sorry that teachers made you feel that way growing up. Comic books are books. So we sat down and had a larger discussion on this, and a comic book is a book, but it's not a book. So if we're talking a normal issue, these are the issues, they come out monthly. This is Silk issue 1. It's number 1 of the Silk series. This is not a book. You can't read this one issue and do a book report on it. This is more closer related to a chapter of a book. So this would be like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, chapter 1. That's this. You have part of a story that introduces you to it, but doesn't actually finish the story. So that is not a book. But now when we move a little further, we go into volumes. Volumes are a collected edition of multiple issues, and you have, so this one in particular has issues 6 through 12 in it, Haunt Volume 2. So this is a book. This is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone right here. This is the same as Aragon, Book 1. These are the same. Yeah, it's a lot thinner, but the reason why is you don't have as much descriptions in it. So, for instance, I'm reading this. I'm not reading. I read in high school this short story. I think it was called like The Empty Mug or something like that. And it's about this guy's dad who was dying of cancer, and he had to take care of him, and he had a shaving mug. And it goes on for like an entire page describing the shaving mug. That's what happens in books because there are no pictures. Whereas in the comic books, you don't really need to go. You just draw the picture. And that's it. I mean, you don't need to go into great detail describing things because you have the pictures. So it makes it look a lot smaller, but you're getting the same story. I actually do have Last of the Mohicans, in a book like this, it's about this thick, too. It's a comic book version of it. Get the full story, but you don't have to read probably this thick of a book to do so. And for me, with Vertigo, it helps. Now, when you move a little further, you also have omnibuses. So this looks closer in size to a normal book, but this is actually 5 books. This is volumes 1 through 5, all collected in one issue. So it'd be like if we had Aragon, Eldest, and the other 2 books, all 4 of them in one giant book. That would be what the omnibus is. That would be the Aragon omnibus. It'd be really difficult to read, or like all stuff in Harry Potter books. But so this is actually 5 books. So essentially, you could get 5 book reports out of this because you're reading 5 different books. Now, yes, I know what your argument's going to be. The omnibus has 5 volumes. Well, the story's not completed, but it is. Volume 1 ends with the story ending where, yes, it continues, it leaves it open, but so does Aragon. So does Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So if you're going to argue that Volume 2 of Hunt can't be counted as a book because it picks up at the in the middle of the story, so we already had its origin in the last book, now it picks up on that story, and it ends with a big cliffhanger that we get to, in the next one, even though technically it ends, with the introduction of this new bad guy that's coming after them. So it can't be a book, but, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, they do that. It picks up after the first story, so it's a new story technically, but it picks up where the last one left off, and it ends with nothing being solved. So if your argument's going to be that you can't just read Volume 2, that you would have to read the entire omnibus, then my argument's going to be that if you're reading a collection of stories like Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, you have to read the entire volume, novel set in order to be counted as one book. You'd have to read all 7 Harry Potter books in order for it to be considered the full story then. So that argument's out the door. There's also compendiums. Sometimes compendiums are a collection of the first 5 volumes, is what I was told, I believe. In this case, this is actually the complete collection of Bone. So this has 9 different volumes in it, I think is what I said. I saw, and so this is 9 books. Sometimes you can have it where, let's say, Bone actually had 18 volumes. So you have Compendium 1 and Compendium 2, and it splits it off into 2 because this is already pretty fat. Can you imagine doubling this size? But it's just, that's what it is. Comic books are books. So I thought for this week, let's have a discussion about this. Do you disagree? Do you think comic books should not be considered books? Tell me why below. Do you agree that, or do you agree and you think comic books and books are the same, or do you disagree? And what do you think? And about my whole volume thing, comparing it to one of the Harry Potter books and saying if you can't say you have to have it complete because there's 5 volumes for Hunt. So you can't say I have to read all 5 volumes. In fact, Volume 4 and Volume 5 are completely different stories because they got new authors that completely destroyed the story, so it's not even the same book as the first 3 volumes. So really, it's only a 3-volume story that has no ending because it got canceled. But yeah, what are your thoughts on comic books as books? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, remember, you don't need to have superpowers to be a hero.